Welcome to another episode of Unique Moments where we take a moment to breathe, take a moment to be, feeling mind, body, and spirit. Hello. Welcome to our first episode. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about mindfulness and the role that that has played on my healing journey and just why mindfulness is so important and how I use it in my everyday life. But before we get into the episode, I did pull a card. We pre-shuffled the deck. And so I pulled, I can do anything, but not everything. And that's a word because we can do a lot of things. We can do a lot of things. And some people might take it, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. But the truth is, we can't do it all. Truthfully, we can't. And I think we are amazing creatures as human beings, but we have a limit. There's only 24 hours in a day, there's only so much that we can do. This card really speaks to that. And so, new thing that I started for every card pull that I do, I've started a blog. If you do want more in-depth information about the card, more into detail, then you can check it out on my blog, touchedbygrace.blog. And so the blog is run by my lovely, fantastic, wonderful neighbor, Grace. And I did an episode with her, episode 33, if you want to go check it out. But she is a phenomenal woman, amazing neighbor, friend, sister, mother, widow, and she has a lot of spiritual knowledge and wisdom and insight, and she hears from the Lord. She has a divine connection to God and to spirit, and so I've just asked her to expand upon the messages and the cards that we get. So if you're interested in that, then please check that out, touchedbygrace.blog, and the link is going to be in the description below. So for the episode, first I'm going to define what mindfulness is. So it's not to be confused with meditation. So mindfulness and meditation can go hand in hand, but you don't necessarily have to be a meditator or practice meditation to engage in mindfulness. And I really just like to think about it as like awareness, pretty much, like quite literally being mindful. And you could be mindful of so many different things. You could be mindful of the weather, how hot it is outside. You could be mindful of yourself. And some might call that being self-conscious, but just being mindful. What's my mood today? Checking in with yourself. How do I feel? Being mindful about what you eat, about what you put into your body, about what you listen to, being mindful about just being aware and what's going on. And I think that is so key when you are on some sort of journey, or when you are healing yourself or really trying to get to the root of something. So you've lost yourself. In my case, it was mainly a breakup that started it, but also just a lot of different life factors. I moved, first time kind of being out on my own, living with myself, and figuring out what I wanted to do for work. All of these mini existential crisis kind of things, you would say. And so mindfulness just kind of helps you to pause. So for me, I do meditate, and I use that as my mindful time. And it's just a time to quiet my mind and say, okay, let me check in with self. How are we feeling? Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally? Have I connected with God today? Have I connected with myself today? Do I truly know how I'm feeling? Because we could do that initial check-in that's like, oh, okay, like how are you feeling? Are you good? Are you fine? Kind of like when we fake it with people and we ask them how they're doing, but we don't really care. We don't really care how you're doing. We just wanted to ask to be polite. But being mindful and really checking in with yourself and then asking, okay, now how am I doing? And then if that response is I'm doing well, okay, dive deeper into that. Why are you doing well? Because you woke up today? Did you experience something wonderful? Did something bad happen? Are you feeling horrible? Are you feeling sick? Are you feeling angry? And really just diving deeper below the surface. How am I? Right? And so I think starting my day with that and being mindful and just being present. I think mindfulness also goes with being present because you're in the now moment. You're paying attention to what's going on. And I think it's also a tool to just help you ground. I think a lot of the times, if we are feeling out of mind, out of body, out of our own energy, and just not like ourselves, what is really helpful is just grounding in your own energy. And yeah, you could go outside, you could take a walk in nature, you could sit in the grass, you could physically ground your feet, but sometimes we don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you only have 5 minutes and you need to get it together. And mindfulness or being mindful, practicing mindfulness is a way to do that. And there's many different ways that you can practice mindfulness. Again, one is meditation and the other is just um, being hyper aware of what's going on. Like if I'm practicing mindfulness right now, I notice that, okay, my air conditioning just came on. If I'm going deeper, I'm listening to what does that sound like? I can see the birds outside. They're flying through the window. I'm being mindful of that. I'm being mindful of the timer that's on the camera. I'm being mindful of the trees that are blowing in the wind. Like all these things are going on that I'm paying attention to. And that's one thing to really just kind of like tap in. And it just grounds you in the present moment. And it's very helpful and it's very key because it kind of just allows you to slow down a bit. And that's really what I want to do here. My hope is for every episode to build upon each other as a tool, as an insight, as something that you can use. And so mindfulness is really like the base level foundational thing. Like if you're not mindful and if you're not aware, healing is very, 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 very difficult to do because you may be journaling and doing your affirmations and doing your mirror work and going to therapy. You may be doing all of those things, but if you're not present with yourself, if you're not being mindful and taking stock of, okay, how was this week different from last week? How do I feel today versus how I felt yesterday? When that trigger happens, when I do think about my ex, when I do think about that bad habit that I was delivered from that I want to go back to, how am I feeling? And if you're not present and if you're not mindful, all those things can just slip away from you. Like you can get very reactive. That's another thing. Mindfulness helps you to stay less reactive and it allows you to respond. It just gives you a minute. For example, if you're in the car, I don't have bad road rage, but I've been in the car with people who do have bad road rage, and God help. And if you're in the car, not practicing mindfulness, and you do have road rage, that could look like, you flipping people off, cursing at the people on the road, swerving, doing stuff to be petty, to be spiteful, whatever you're doing in the car because you're mad that things aren't going your way. But if you're being mindful in those same scenarios, you might think twice before you flip someone off. You might think twice before you do something just to be petty at another driver. It just allows you time to like really think and process and capture, okay, what's going on in my mind? Do I really want to make that decision? Do I really want to do that? And that's so important when you're healing because the whole thing is to not go back to the thing that you used to do. To not be the person that you used to be. We want to be this healed version of ourselves, right? Not the unhealed version, not the broken version, not the one who doesn't know how to manage their emotions, not the one who doesn't know when to set boundaries or how to set boundaries. You want to be this higher self, this healed version of yourself. And how do you get there? You have to pay the utmost attention to yourself. And that can be hard. That can be very hard because there's so many other things to pay attention to. There's so many things in our personal lives. We can pay attention to our friends, our family, social media, our jobs, our hobbies, our passions. And while all of those things are connected to us, that has something to do with me. That is not me. There is still a self that I need to check in with. There is still a whole person comprised of mind, body, and spirit. There is a whole unique individual that I need to check in with. And being mindful allows you to check in and it allows you to assess, how am I doing? How am I feeling? Without that, truthfully, without that, you're just running on autopilot. And I think that is what half of everybody, probably majority, there's probably a statistic out there, but I would say more than half of society is running on autopilot right now and living in survival mode. And even if you're not in survival mode, it's very easy to still run on autopilot, especially when you have routines, especially when your days kind of blend together and they kind of look the same. It's easy to just second nature. I know when I drive to work, when I drive to the gym, I'm not thinking about it. I'm going in the car. My body's doing the work because I've done this so many times. I've done the routine so many times, but integrating mindfulness into that may look like, instead of putting on my normal playlist that I do when I get in the car, I actually check in with myself. What do I want to hear? How do I want to feel? What music do I want to put me in the mood for this leg day? Do I want to go a different route? Do I want to stop at the store for an energy drink? Like it's just checking in and really being aware, being mindful instead of just going to the front desk and saying hi, saying good morning. Maybe give that person a compliment. Maybe ask them how they're doing. Obviously, if you don't care, don't do it. Like we don't need to do things to be nice, but like if you genuinely want to, if you genuinely care, then make another move. But I think when we're operating on autopilot and when we're not thinking and not considering, it's easy to just let the days go by. And then you wonder if you are healing something, if you are trying to be better, if you are trying to form a new habit, weeks go by, months go by, and you haven't gotten results. It is because you haven't been mindful and you haven't been paying attention about what's actually going on. Same thing with the gym. Like you have a goal. You want to be fit by the summertime. You want to be summertime fine. And we have 30 minutes, quite literally. We have 30 minutes. But if you just let that time go by and you're not really checking in with yourself, you're not being mindful, okay, did I increase my reps? Did I increase the amount of weight that I'm doing? If you're not being mindful and really checking in and paying attention and staying on top of your goals, you're not going to see that change by June. You're not going to see that difference. And same thing with eating, like that's a whole nother episode in itself, a whole nother topic, but just being mindful about how you eat. Like if you're trying to lose weight and you're not paying attention to, and it's not about counting calories. It's not like sometimes if that's what you want to do, if that's what your goal is, if you're counting macros and you're counting calories and carbs and whatever, not my lane. But like if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But for people who just want to lose weight or be more fit or be more whatever, it's not necessarily about counting how many calories you're eating, but it's just noticing, being mindful. Okay, how many cookies did I eat? Versus I'm just gonna mindlessly eat the cookies until I feel full, until I feel satisfied. Like, no, like, and it's not about being restrictive, it's just about being mindful. Okay, I've had 5 cookies. Do I want to have another one? I say I have this goal, but is this helping me get toward my goal? Again, with the just checking in with yourself. And that's with everything. I have a goal to stop drinking as much. Do I check in with myself and say, okay, how many drinks have I had this week? Or am I just going out Friday, Saturday, Sunday because it's normal, because it's in my routine, because it's on autopilot? And so those are just some of the ways that you can apply mindfulness to your life, but it really just boils down to awareness. Like how aware of yourself are you? And sometimes it's kind of gets too much because you don't want to be tracking your every move, right? Like you want to just be able to just be and not have to be so self-conscious and think about, okay, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? But if you don't, your mind will get away from you. It's very, very easy for your mind to get away from you when you're not paying attention to it. Like even at work, like I could do my job not in my sleep, but I do my job well, and so I don't have to think about it. It's not really much brain power. It's like okay, every new day is different, and I'll have to assess the situation when that time comes. But for the most part, I have it. I know what I'm doing, and I can just do it. But when I'm mindful at work, there's just more intention behind it, and so I think being mindful is so key when you're healing because I honestly think it could speed it up too, depending on how mindful you are. Because if you're just not aware and you're, just doing what the people on the internet say to heal and you're not really checking in if this is working for you or not, then it's like, what are you really doing? Like you could be wasting time. You could be healing yourself for 6 months and you could still be in the same place because you're not taking stock. You're not exercising that awareness of, okay, am I in a better position than I was 2 weeks ago? Am I in a better position than I was 2 months ago? And a practice that I do to help other than meditation is journaling. Like journaling is so, so, so helpful in terms of mindfulness because it forces you to first of all think and remember and recall events about what's going on and what do you want to happen and what do you want to feel. And it forces you to pause and check in with yourself, which is all mindfulness is. It's just a pausing and checking in. What do I want to be aware of today? What do I not want to do on autopilot anymore? Healing, especially you have to be so. That's all I got from mindfulness. Please check out the blog, touchedbygrace.blog on Medium. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time.